let's talk about the Black Plague. The Black Plague, also known as the bubonic plague, was a devastating pandemic that swept through Eurasia in the 14th century, claiming the lives of estimated to be about 75 to 200 million people. But where did this deadly disease originate from? Let's find out. The Black Plague is believed to have originated in the regions of Central Asia near the borders of present-day China, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan. It was caused by the bacteria Yersinia pestis, which primarily infects rodents like rats, and it transmits to humans through the bites of the infected fleas. The plague spread rapidly along trade routes, both overland and by sea. It's thought that the Mongolian Empire played a significant role in the spreading of the disease, as their vast networks of trade routes connected various regions and facilitated the movement of people, goods, and unfortunately infected rats and fleas. The plague reached Europe in 1347 when a fleet of Gustonian trade ships arrived in the Sicilian port of Messina, carrying the deadly cargo of the infected rats. From there, the disease spread like wildfire across the continent, reaching as far north as Scandinavia and as far west as the British Isles. The symptoms of the Black Plague were gruesome and terrifying. Victims would experience high fevers, chills, weakness, and swollen, painful lymph nodes called buboes. The Black Plague was highly contagious and had a mortality rate of around 50 to 60%. The plague had a profound impact on European society, leading to the significant social, economical, and religious changes. Alright, let's move on to the next one.
Hey, it's Welcome Outside. So let's talk about the symptoms and transmissions of the Black Plague. The Black Plague, also known as the bubonic plague, was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. It had three main forms: bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic. Let's take a closer look at the symptoms of each form. Number 1, the bubonic plague. The bubonic form was the most common and was characterized by the sudden onset of fever, chills, weakness, and swollen and painful lymph nodes called buboes. These buboes were often accompanied by blackened skin around the area, hence the name Black Plague. This would just think about this, is kind of scary to just have a dark black spot on a large black welt just growing on your arm. Is just a scary, very scary thought. Number 2, the septicemic plague. The septicemic form of the plague occurred when the bacteria spread to the bloodstream. Symptoms included fever, chills, rapid heartbeat, low blood pressure, abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and the formation of gangrene in the extremities, leading to the blackening and death of tissue. If you guys don't know what gangrene is, it's where a part or where the wound area is infected and the skin around it just starts to die. Number 3, the pneumonic plague. The pneumonic form was the rarest and most severe, affecting the lungs. There wasn't much information that we could find on here. So let's move on to the history of the plague doctors. Plague doctors emerged during the 14th century at the height of the bubonic plague. These medical professionals were specifically hired by the towns and cities to treat those afflicted by the plague. They were often inexperienced or had little to no medical training, but their role was vital in providing care for the sick and dying. Let's talk about plague doctor's iconic costume that what kind of resembles a crow's head. One of the most recognizable aspects of the plague doctor is their unique costume. The outfit consisted of a long waxed overcoat, gloves, boots, and a wide-brimmed hat. But the most striking feature was the mask, which had a long, bird-like beak. This beak was filled with aromatic herbs and spices, believed to protect the doctor from the miasma or bad air that was thought to spread the disease. The costume also served as a barrier between the doctor and the infected patients, offering some level of protection. Wait, before my part of this video is over, subscribe to Kiwi Punch right now.
The Black Plague had a profound social impact on Europe. As the death toll rose, entire communities were wiped out, leading to mass labor shortages. This shortage forced landowners to offer higher wages and better working conditions to attract workers. Ultimately, this led to the decline of the feudal system. Additionally, the plague forced a sense of distrust and fear among the people as they struggled to understand the cause of the disease and turned to superstition and scapegoating. The economical consequences of the Black Plague were far-reaching, with a significant portion of the population gone. Demand for goods and services decreased, leading to a decline in trade. The labor shortage also meant that the cost of labor increased and caused inflation. However, the redistribution of wealth and land following the deaths of so many landowners led to the rise of a new middle class, which would eventually pave the way to the growth of capitalism. The Black Plague also left its mark on European culture. The widespread death and suffering led to a fascination with mortality, which was reflected in the art, literature, and music of the time. Okay, let's move on to our final section. As the Black Plague ravaged Europe, people were desperate for a solution. Early attempts to combat the disease were often based on superstition and misinformation. Some of the most common methods include flagellation. People believed that the plague was a punishment from God, so they would whip themselves in public to atone for their sins. Bloodletting. Doctors would drain the blood from the patients, thinking it would help balance the body's humor and cure the disease. Herbal remedies. Various herbs and spices were used in an attempt to treat the symptoms of the plague, but their effectiveness were limited. But unfortunately, these early attempts did little to stop the disease from spreading. As the plague continued to spread, authorities began to implement more practical measures to combat the disease. One of the most effective strategies was the enablement of quarantines and isolation practices. Infected individuals and their families were often confined in their homes, which were marked with a painted sign or a piece of cloth indicating the presence of the plague in the house. This helped to slow down the spreading of the disease and allow healthy individuals to avoid contact with the infected. Another critical step in combating the Black Plague was the improvement of sanitation and hygiene. Authorities recognized the importance of cleanliness in preventing the spreading of the disease. Big shout out to Welcome Outside for helping me with this video, and go check out his channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Sorry this took so long too.